I first visited the Sea of Cortez to study marine ecology. Exploring many amazing places along the Baja California coastline, I soon realized I had slipped into one of the most vibrant places on the planet. Jacques Cousteau was right when he called the Sea of Cortez the world's aquarium. Extreme contrasts occur in this area that lure me to understand this sea of change. Not only does dry, hot desert dance with clear blue water of the sea, but the abundance of sea life is intertwined with the culture that depends on it. I find myself drawn back to this part of Mexico to experience not only the magnificence of the sea, but also to learn the stories of those who live on it. I had heard about people in this region creating solutions to the worldwide problem of overfishing. I wondered if they could be an example of hope amidst industries that decimate marine life. I returned to the Sea of Cortez to discover sustainability in a world of vast consumption. Finding numerous petroglyphs throughout the peninsula, I can only imagine how many generations have survived from fishing. Old legends actually describe mountains of fish piling up out of the sea. Nowhere near any towns, I came across Papa Fernandez Fish Camp. Founded on rich sea life, I was excited to eat the fresh catch of the day. Even though this family community was right on the beach, there were no fish on the menu. What had happened to relying on the sea?
Scientists look at the Sea of Cortez like they look at the Galapagos Islands as a place to study evolutionary change. It's a very unique sea. It has 3 provinces. Those 3 regions are pretty distinct, not only in their oceanographic characteristics, but biologically what they do too. With the north being a nursery ground, those soft sediments, the bottom, the shallow, the warm water, and then the central part really highly biologically diverse, a lot of upwelling, high diversities of marine mammals, the importance of the islands as nurseries, nesting grounds for seabirds, nurseries for California sea lions. I mean, some of the islands there support 95 to 100% of all of the individuals nesting in the Pacific Ocean when you're talking about the elegant terns or the blue-footed boobies. So it's a very important sea. It's a very unique sea. I would describe it as productive and beautiful, captivating, wild.
To begin the quest for sustainability, I entered into Mexico and headed toward the northernmost end of the sea. Along the way, I found some hot springs to soak in. I continued on until I arrived at Alto Golfo Santa Clara. There, Ocean Gardens, the largest American importer of Mexican shrimp, had summoned a meeting with key players. For the first time in this area, fishermen, government, non-governmental organizations, and scientists were collaborating with a corporate giant to discuss sustainability. The amazing thing is that all of these efforts were initiated by concerned citizens simply writing Ocean Gardens. In response to the letters, they are discussing techniques to avoid catching the endangered vaquita porpoise, and they are researching methods to reduce the bycatch of all marine species.
There are some real alarming downward trends in productivity from the base of the food chain all the way on. Over 50% of the world's oceans are overexploited according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. To understand the crisis in the world's fisheries, there are a few things that happen. And one is overcapitalization, which is the human tendency to respond to a decline in catch with an increase in effort. So if you're not catching as much fish as you used to, get a bigger boat, get a bigger net, get a bigger motor, go offshore further, fish more, fish harder to get the same amount of fish. Huge factory ships that can process hundreds of tons of fish an hour are out there on the seas. Another thing that happens is switching fishing grounds. So where we used to fish a lot in the northern hemisphere, now almost all of the commercial fish effort is happening in the southern hemisphere. The third one is fishing down the food chain, which just means that instead of fishing for the top predator species, you're all of a sudden going down and down and down and down until some people say, well, now what are we fishing for? Sea cucumbers and jellyfish and just the things that are on the very bottom of the food chain, because there's not that much left. We are taking fish out of the sea, some of which used to be used for human consumption, and feeding it to something that's being raised for export to the United States and to Europe, which we call the protein transfer, so that people in the southern hemisphere are eating less and less of a percentage of their diet from fish protein. That fish protein is either not there anymore or it's being directly exported out for economic gain.
I continued my journey to find examples of what people can actually do about the depletion of our seas. I wanted to better understand the global overfishing predicament. I had commercially fished for salmon in Alaska and didn't see a problem with salmon fishing practices there. I love seafood and wanted to see how some of the techniques here could equate to such destruction. So I worked on a shrimp fishing boat for a night. These men were some of the nicest people I met on the entire trip. They were only doing what their forefathers had done, except with extra technology. They have computers to track theirs and other boats' paths while they drag the nets across the seafloor to gather shrimp. They continually rake the bottom, not leaving many inches unscathed. In the process, it shatters the habitat and indiscriminately catches many other species. For every pound of shrimp caught, generally 8 to 12 pounds of non-intended animals are discarded, dead. If this is representational of fishing practices worldwide, no wonder overfishing is the biggest threat to our oceans. Even though there is a flotilla of trash the size of Texas, where currents converge in the Pacific, and some fish are too contaminated to eat, overfishing is still the most pressing issue for our oceans. Scientists monitoring populations of sharks, dolphins, tuna, and other large fish at the top of the food chain estimate that populations have dropped to 10% of what they were in 1950. This turtle drowned in the net despite efforts to resuscitate it.